What is a question? A sentence worded or expressed so as to elicit information. Well, I don't know about you, but I've got many questions. Join me, Q, as we ask some questions. Many people have debated and theorized about today's topic. So, can we time travel? This is a complicated question to answer, unless of course if you want to go down the rabbit hole of wormholes and fast and light speed travel, which is in my opinion far beyond our capabilities. More intelligent men than us have tried, and some have had reasonable success in proving their theories. But today we're not going down the rabbit hole of trying to prove or explain time travel theories or hypotheses in which we go back in time or travel faster than the speed of light. Today I'll tell you about 3 different natural ways that humanity, in terms of knowledge, do travel back in time on a regular basis. When the night comes and you look up into the sky and gaze at the stars, you are in fact looking at history, and sometimes you're looking back millions and millions of years. Let's say, for example, there was an intelligent species living on a planet millions of light years away. If your eyes were good enough, you might be able to see them looking back up to you and wondering exactly the same thing. But the odds are, even if you were able to see them, by the time that light reaches your eyes, the possibility of such a civilization still existing would be slim to none, as millions of years have passed since that image left the planet it originated from. The light that reaches Earth is millions of years old in many instances, and the planets we see now, many of them don't exist anymore. But we can have a clear glimpse of what stars are like or were like millions of years back, and that's enabled us to learn much. So this is the first way in which we can, in a natural way, look back and see the distant past as it was millions and millions of years back. Just by looking at the sun, in fact you are looking back in time about 7 or 8 minutes. In fact, the sun can cease to exist and you would not know about it for up to 8 minutes, because that's how long it takes the light to travel from the sun to the earth. It takes light that travels from Mars about 3 minutes to reach the earth, and that's only when the orbits are in a favorable position. It takes a man-made craft approximately 6 months to get to Mars. It's easy to forget that Mars and Earth are on separate orbits around the Sun, so travel time will vary depending on where each planet is and what stage of the year you are. If we could travel at the speed of light, it would take about 3 minutes to get to Mars. Time delays in communications from Mars to Earth is one of the smallest problems SpaceX will have to deal with when they endeavor to colonize or send missions to Mars. Space radiation and gravity is going to be 2 of the major problems to overcome if SpaceX wants to proceed with their Mars missions. The size of just the observable universe is difficult to near impossible to explain, let alone understand. The observable universe is estimated to be 93 billion light years in diameter. To try to put this in perspective, Proxima Centauri, discovered in 1950, is 4,244 light years from our Sun. You would travel over 4,000 years to get there if you could travel at the speed of light. Light travels at approximately 300,000 kilometers a second, and it's, as far as we know, only on Earth where it's used for photosynthesis. And that brings us to the next way you can see back in time. Trees have provided scientists with extremely detailed information. Yes, you can see a tree's age by looking at its growth rings, but there is more to it. Climatologists, yes, and you and me, can see how wet or hot a particular year was, and also what oxygen levels were like in the particular year in question. If a year had high rainfall, the growth rate will be higher and the rings further apart, just in case you didn't know. And no, I'm not suggesting that you go and piss off Groot or some Lord of the Rings ent by chopping down a 5,000-year-old tree. Tree ring samples are taken without doing any chopping. Jewels are used to take samples, and the tree continues to grow. The problem with these studies, dendrochronology, which is tree ring dating, laugh out loud, it sounds a bit like a swingers club for ants. In any case, is that it can only give you information up to when the young ants sprouted, and the oldest trees around today is 4 to 5,000 years old. And that brings us to the last way to look into the past. Ice. Very, very old ice. In some places on Earth, ice have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, non-stop. Not just in the polar regions, but also on glaciers, on mountain tops, from New Zealand to the United States. Ice core samples are not a new thing, but has been present from about the 1950s and to a lesser and less advanced degree before that. Scientists claim to be able to look back up to 800,000 years. So you can breathe again, ants. The amount of seasonal melt and snowfall can be registered and seen on these records. So it is possible to tell how much precipitation fell in any given season. And not just that, we are able to see our friend. You know, Krakatoa from 1893, devastating volcano. Well, if you don't worry. I'll leave the link at the end of the video so you can understand where I'm coming from with this. The layers of ice contain tiny bubbles. Oh boy, now I've got a very annoying song stuck in my head. So these bubbles contain gases and particles that were present in the atmosphere in the specific year when it froze, trapping it inside. When there are global events such as volcanoes or big asteroids that hit Earth, it kicks up or releases particles and gases. They spread around the globe, and when they reach the polar regions or glaciers and it rains or snow falls, they don't just flush away. Mother Nature is kind enough to put them in cold storage for us to discover and measure 800,000 years later. Some extinction events could be linked to recorded events found in the ice, and it is widely speculated that there was an event recorded that contributed to multiple species, like woolly mammoth going extinct around 10,000 years ago. Okay, so that's as far as we go today. Thanks for your time. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell.